Hi, this is Chris again with Nightfall Audiobooks, and welcome to The New Girl. This is it. This is Fear Street #1. This began the entire thing. This launched the Super Chillers. This launched the trilogies. I hate using this word. I hate saying the word iconic, because iconic is almost like epic. It's been overused. It's lost all sense of meaning and all sense of scale. But looking at the cover of The New Girl, because this was my first Fear Street novel, it is iconic. You have the moon in the background, right by the word new. You have the girl on the street with the mist around her as she walks down Fear Street, and she's kind of like, am I really in the right spot? This is a very, very fun novel. I haven't read this in 20 years. I'm not kidding. When I was younger and I was reading these novels, I would look for another book to read because I read almost constantly when I was younger. And I would look at my library and I would always pick up The New Girl. And I think I've read this twice. I don't think I've read it a third time yet. I would always pick it up and go, yeah, Corey Brooks. Okay, I think I remember what happens. And then I would put the book down and I wouldn't get back to it. And I did that a lot as a kid. If I remembered even a little bit about the novel, I would just ignore it and come back to it later. And maybe when I get back to it, I would forget what happens, because then it would seem like it was new. I don't know. I'm weird. But now this is that time, because I completely forgot about what happens in this novel. I don't remember anything about this. This is going to be a lot of fun to read. I have the actual novel in my hands right now, so it will be read to you from the page. You may hear page turning and my thumb scraping across the pages or something like that. Remember now, this is Fear Street #1. A lot of the tropes had not been established yet. Eating cornflakes and drinking orange juice to get powered up to go out and get rid of the bad guy had not been established yet. They did that in One Evil Summer. They do that a lot. Breakfast is a big deal on Fear Street. Leaving a porch light on Fear Street's a big deal too. We will see what happens. This will be a book that I have read and I am familiar with, but I've forgotten almost everything about. Also, this is one of the rare novels told from a male perspective. A lot of Fear Street novels, and I've read over 32 of these things, are from the female perspective. That is not a complaint, it's just an observation. So this will be one of the rare ones where we get to see things from the guy's point of view, not only the girl's point of view. And that'll help me out a bunch too, because maybe he'll have a guy best friend, and I can do another guy voice instead of doing the tired old valley girl voice, deep, sultry, sexy girl voice, and I can stretch my legs a little bit with my vocal talents. So I'm looking forward to this. So let's begin. If you want to get in touch with me, you can write me an email, nightfallaudiobooks@gmail.com. I am also on YouTube at Nightfall Audiobooks. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell whoever you think would like to listen to me tell them tales from R.L. Stine. I am looking forward to this. I am very excited. And let's begin. Welcome to a Nightfall Audiobooks production of The New Girl by R.L. Stine, a Fear Street novel, Book 1. Prologue. Bye, Anna. Goodbye. Look at her down there, all crumpled, her dress all crumpled. She wouldn't like that. She was always so neat. She wouldn't like the blood, so dark and messy. You were always so perfect, Anna. You were always so bright and shiny, as if you were sparkly new every day. My diamond, Mom always said. And who was I then? Who was I while you were little Miss Perfect? Well, you're perfect now. You're perfectly dead. Ha ha. I shouldn't laugh, but it was so easy. I never dreamed it would be so easy. Oh, I dreamed about it a lot. I dreamed it and wished it, and oh, did I feel guilty. But I never knew it would be easy. One push, and down you go. Look at you down there, all crumpled, so perfectly crumpled. And now the front door is opening. They are returning, and I am starting to cry. It is a horrible tragedy after all. A horrible, tragic accident. I must cry for you now, and I must run and tell them. Anna's dead, Mom. Come quickly. It's all too horrible. But Anna's dead. Chapter 1. When Corey Brooks saw the new girl for the first time, he was standing on his head in the lunchroom. Actually, he was standing on his head in one hand, while balancing a full lunch tray in his free hand, his black Converse high tops reaching straight up to where his head would normally be. A few seconds earlier, David Metcalf, Corey's best friend and fellow daredevil from the Shadyside High Gymnastics team, had suggested that Corey couldn't perform this feat. "That's too easy, man," Corey had said, shaking his head. Corey never passed up an opportunity to prove David wrong. He hesitated for only a second, running his hand back through his curly black hair and looking across the large, crowded room to make sure no teachers were watching. Then he flipped over in midair, landed and balanced on his head and hand, without even tilting the loaded tray. And now David was applauding and whistling his approval from a nearby table, along with several other laughing, cheering spectators. "Now do it no hands," David called. "Yeah, do it," Arnie Tobin, another gymnastics team pal, urged. "Do it with no head," another joker yelled. Everyone laughed. Corey, meanwhile, was beginning to feel a little uncomfortable. The blood was rushing to his head. He felt a little dizzy, and the top of his head began to ache from pressing hard against the tile floor. "I dare you to eat your lunch like that," David called, always challenging Corey on to greater glories. "What's for dessert? Upside-down cake?" a girl yelled from near the windows. Several kids groaned and hissed their disapproval of this bad joke. "Corey, looking good," someone shouted. "What is going on?" called an alarmed voice, the voice of a teacher. The jokes, the loud voices, the cheers and laughter, all seemed to fade when the new girl floated into Corey's view. She was so pale, so blonde, so light, so beautiful. At first, he thought he was imagining her. All the blood rushing to his head must be causing him to see things. She was walking against the far wall, heading quickly to the double doorways. Corey caught only a glimpse of her upside down. She stopped to stare at him. He saw pale blue eyes. His eyes connected with hers. Did she know he was staring back at her? Was she smiling or frowning? It was impossible to tell from his position. Then she shook her blonde head, as if purposefully breaking the connection, and vanished from his view. Those eyes. Who is she? Corey thought. She's incredible. Thinking about the new girl, he forgot to concentrate on the delicate balance that was keeping him upright. The tray fell first. Then Corey fell, his face sliding messily into his food, his chest hitting the floor hard, his long legs sprawling behind him. The room erupted in laughter and sarcastic applause. "Do it again!" Arnie Tobin's voice boomed. Arnie could outshout any crowd. David hurried over to help Corey up. "Any more bright ideas?" Corey moaned, pulling spaghetti and tomato sauce out of his hair. "Next time, just get a sandwich," David said, laughing. He had carrot-colored hair and freckles almost as orange, and he had a whooping, high-pitched laugh that could make dogs perk up their ears for miles around. Corey used the front of his t-shirt to wipe spaghetti sauce from his face. When he looked up, Mrs. MacReady, the lunchroom monitor, was in front of him. She didn't say anything. She just shook her head. "Sorry about that," Corey said, feeling more than a little foolish. "About what?" Mrs. MacReady asked, keeping a straight face. Corey laughed. Thank goodness Mrs. MacReady had a good sense of humor. "It was all Arnie's idea," David told her, pointing back to the table where Arnie was busily shoving pretzel sticks into his mouth 3 at a time. "I don't think Arnie's ever had an idea," Mrs. MacReady said, still straight-faced. Then she gave Corey a quick wink and walked away. Still dripping with noodles and tomato sauce, Corey bent down to pick up the tray. "Hey, David, who was that girl?" "What girl?" "The blonde girl. The one who walked out while—" "Who?" David seemed confused. He picked up Corey's scattered silverware and tossed it onto the tray. "A new girl." Corey groaned. "Didn't you see her?" "No, I was watching you make a total dork of yourself." "Me? It was your idea." "It wasn't my idea to do a face dive into a plate of spaghetti." "She's blonde and she was wearing a pale blue dress." "Who?" "The girl I saw." "You saw a girl wearing a dress to school. You don't believe me, huh?" Corey looked to the doorway as if she might still be there. But then his stomach growled and he remembered he just ruined his lunch. "Hey, David, you got any money? I'm starving." "Don't look at me, man," David said, grinning and backing away. "Come on, you owe me." Corey put the tray down on an empty table and started to come after him. No way, man. Where's your lunch? We'll split it. Corey changed direction and headed toward David's table. My lunch. Forget it. I haven't. Corey took the apple off David's tray, then grabbed a handful of pretzel sticks from Arnie's. Hey, I need those, Arnie protested, making a futile swipe to get them back. Be a pal, Corey said through a mouthful of apple. We've got practice after school, right? If I don't eat, I'll be too weak to climb onto the balance beam. Break my heart, Arnie said, as he broke off the pretzels in Corey's hand and shoved the halves quickly into his own mouth. Maybe the rest of us will stand a chance. Corey detected more than a little resentment from Arnie. He felt bad about that, but what could he do? He couldn't help it if he was a more talented gymnast than his teammates. He had been on the varsity gymnastics team since his freshman year at Shadyside, and Coach Wellner really thought he had a chance of making the All-State Championships the following spring. It's a good thing Coach Wellner didn't see me fall into my lunch, Corey thought. He finished off the last of Arnie's pretzel sticks and slurped up the last few drops of David's chocolate milk, then crushed the cardboard container in his hand. A well-balanced lunch, he said, hiccuping. Arnie was busy showing David a new way to slap someone 5. He had a serious look on his normally grinning face, and he was slapping David's hand again and again, trying to get it just right. Not like that, jerk, he kept saying. Corey couldn't figure out who was the jerk. Later, he told them, tossing the crushed milk carton into a trash basket halfway across the room. They didn't look up. He headed toward the double doors, ignoring some kids who were laughing about his stained shirt and the congealed tomato sauce in his hair. Hey, Corey, think fast! Someone threw a milk carton at him. It bounced off a table and hit the floor. He didn't turn around. He was thinking about the girl in the blue dress again. He had seen her for only a few seconds, upside down. But he knew she was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. Hauntingly beautiful. The phrase popped into his head. He realized he was looking for her as he headed down the hall to his locker. Where is she? Who is she? I didn't imagine her, did I? Hey, Corey, you swimming your lunch? He didn't turn around to see who that was. He realized he must look pretty bad. Suddenly, he hoped he wouldn't run into the girl now. He didn't want her to see him with tomato sauce in his hair and all over his shirt. He stood in front of his locker, trying to decide what to do. Was there time to head down to the showers? He looked at his watch. No, the bell for 5th period would ring in less than 2 minutes. Maybe he could cut English. No, Mr. Heston was explaining the term paper assignment today. Lisa Bloom walked up and began turning the combination lock to open her locker. She pulled the lock open, then looked at him. You look great. Thanks. He looked down at his shirt. This reminds you of when we were little kids? No, you were neater then, she laughed. Corey and Lisa had lived next door to each other in the North Hills section of town for their entire lives. They had played together since they were toddlers. Their 2 families were so close, they were like one big family. Living so close together, Corey and Lisa had managed to stay friends even through those years when boys only play with boys and girls only play with girls. Now, as teenagers, they knew each other so well, they were so comfortable with each other. Their friendship seemed a natural part of life. Lisa had dark, good looks, long, black hair that tumbled in curls down to her shoulders, black, almond-shaped eyes, and dark, lipsticked lips that curled into a half-smile whenever she said something funny, which was often. A lot of kids said she looked like Cher. Lisa pretended not to be flattered by the comparison, but she was secretly pleased. Now she stared at Corey in front of their lockers. I was standing on my head in the lunchroom, he told her, as if that fully explained his appearance. Not again, she said. She bent down to pick up some books from the floor of the locker. Who are you showing off for this time? Her question annoyed him. I didn't say I was showing off. I just said I was standing on my head. David dared you to, right? How'd you know? Lucky guess. She stood up, her arms filled with texts and notebooks. You can't go into class like that. You smell like a pizza. What can I do? Here, you can borrow a t-shirt. She bent down again to rummage in a cluttered locker. A girl's shirt? I can't wear a girl's shirt. He grabbed the sleeve of her sweater and started to pull her up. She pulled out of his grasp. It's not a girl's shirt. It's from the Gap. It's for girls or boys. You know, it's just a shirt. She pulled the black and white striped t-shirt out and tossed it to him. But wash your hair before you put it on. The warning bell rang. Locker doors slammed. The hall grew quiet as kids disappeared into their 5th period class. Get real. How can I wash my hair? She pointed to the water fountain across the hall. He smiled at her gratefully. You're smart, Lisa. I always said you were smart. That's a real compliment coming from a guy who put his head in his spaghetti, she said, her mouth sliding into that familiar, wry half-smile. Hold the water on for me, he said, walking quickly to the low white fountain. He looked down the hall to make sure no one was watching. The hall was nearly deserted. No way, Corey. I don't want to be late. She followed him anyway. And I certainly don't want to be seen with you. You're a pal, Lisa. He didn't see her frown. She hated that word. She hated to be a pal. She sighed and turned the water knob. Then she stood there, hoping that no one would come by, as he plunged his head into the fountain and frantically struggled to scrub the dried sauce from his tangled curls. The bell rang. She let go of the fountain. Corey, I've got to go. He stood up, water pouring down his face. Good thing the water in this fountain never gets cold, he said. He pulled off the stained t-shirt and dried his hair with it. Corey, really? I don't want to be late. She tossed the clean t-shirt at him and, struggling to hold on to her armload of books, ran to class. The striped shirt fell onto the floor in front of Corey's sneakers. Still rubbing his hair dry with the dirty shirt, he bent over to pick it up. When he stood up, he saw her again. First he saw her blue dress. Then he saw her blonde hair. She was halfway down the hall, hurrying to class. There was something strange about the way she moved. Her feet didn't make a sound as she ran. She was so light she seemed to be floating a few inches above the ground. Hey, wait, he called to her. She heard him. She stopped and turned her head, her blonde hair swirling behind her. Once again, her blue eyes connected with his. What was that in her eyes? Was it fear? Her lips moved. She was saying something to him, but he couldn't hear her. Please don't. Is that what she had said? No, that wasn't it. That couldn't be it. Corey was a terrible lip reader. Please don't. No. What had she really said? Why did she look so frightened? Please, wait, he called. But she vanished into a classroom. Chapter 2. Corey slammed the gym locker shut and angrily pounded his fist against it. Hey, what's the matter with you, man? David asked, still in his practice sweats. I stink, Corey shouted. I looked like a spaz on the bars today. So what else is new? David said with a shrug. At least you didn't sprain your ankle. He rubbed the ankle, which was swollen nearly to the size of a softball. Later, Corey muttered disgustedly. He tossed his wet towel over David's head and angrily shoved his way out of the locker room door. He just had the worst practice of the year, maybe of his life, and he knew why. It was the new girl. Corey had been looking for her for 3 days. He hadn't seen her since that brief moment in the hall, before his 5th period on Monday, but he hadn't been able to get her out of his mind ever since. She was just so beautiful. He had even dreamed about her that first night. In the dream, he was eating lunch in school. She seemed to float across the lunchroom. She came up to his table, her blue eyes shimmering like the ocean in sunlight. She leaned down and her hair fell over his face, soft and fragrant. She started to kiss his face, his cheek, his forehead, his other cheek. Soft kisses. So soft he couldn't feel them. He wanted to feel her kisses. He tried to feel them, but he couldn't feel a thing. He reached up to touch her face. His hands seemed to go right through her. And he woke up. The dream stayed with him. It should have been a nice dream, an exciting dream, but it wasn't. There was something eerily cold about the dream. Why couldn't he feel her kisses or touch her face? For the next 3 days, he had looked for her in the lunchroom and in the halls between classes. He had even waited by the front doors after school, hoping to get a glimpse of her, but she had never appeared, and none of the guys Corey had asked knew who she was or even remembered seeing her. Now, as he trudged through the empty corridor, he tried to think about why his timing had been so off during gymnastics practice, but her face kept floating into his mind, and once again he imagined her floating across the hall. Are you real? Corey asked aloud, his voice echoing off the tile walls. Yeah, I'm real, but what are you? A girl's voice replied, nearly startling him out of his high tops. Huh? He spun around to find Lisa behind him, a questioning look on her face. Talking to yourself these days? He could feel his face reddening. What are you doing here? It's after 5 o'clock. It's my school too, you know. I can stay as long as I like. You jocks think you own the place. He shrugged. He wasn't in the mood to joke around with her. I was working on The Spectator. We were pasting it up today. Lisa was assistant editor of the Shadyside High School paper. I suppose you were doing flip-flops in the gym? It's not flip-flops, he said grumpily, We have a match against Matawan Friday night. Good luck, she said, punching his shoulder. They're pretty good, right? They're not that good. They walked down the hall, their footsteps echoing loudly. At their lockers, they stopped to pull out jackets and book bags. You going home? Lisa asked. Want company? Sure, he said, although he really didn't. They walked out the back doorway and stepped down into the teacher's parking lot. Beyond the parking lot stood the football stadium, a concrete oval with long wooden bleachers on two sides. And behind the stadium stood Shadyside Park, a wide, grassy park dotted with ancient oaks and sycamores and sassafras trees, sloping gradually down to the banks of the Conanoka River, actually a narrow, meandering stream. The nearness of the park made it an afternoon hangout for just about everyone who didn't have an after-school job. It was great for meeting friends, relaxing, enjoying after-school picnics, or impromptu parties, studying, making out, playing endless games of frisbee, taking an afternoon siesta, or just staring at squirrels or the slow-moving river. But not tonight. The wind was cold and gusty, and it swirled tangles of brown leaves in fast circles over the parking lot. Zipping their down jackets against the unexpected cold, Corey and Lisa looked up to a sky that was heavy and dark, a November sky, a snow sky. Let's go the front way, he said. They headed around toward the front of the school. She leaned against him as they walked. He figured she was trying to keep warm. Guess it's really winter, she said. They turned up Park Drive and headed toward North Hills, a walk they had made together hundreds of times. Tonight seemed different to him somehow. He guessed he was just in a bad mood. They were silent for a long time, leaning up the hill, the wind gusting first behind them, then blowing hard in their faces. Then they both spoke at once. He. Have you seen a girl with blonde hair? And she. Are you doing anything this weekend? Saturday night? They both stopped talking at the same time, then started again at the same time. She shoved him. You go first. He shoved her back, but not as hard. No, you! A car horn honked at them. Probably someone from school. A dark blue Honda Accord sped by. It was too dark to see who was inside. I asked if you were doing anything Saturday night, she said, leaning against him again. No, I don't think so. I'm not either, she told him. Her voice sounded funny, a little tense. He decided it was just because of the wind. Have you seen a girl with blonde hair and big blue eyes? He asked. What? A very pretty girl, but strange-looking, kind of old-fashioned, very pale. She let go of his arm. He didn't see the disappointed look in her face. You mean Anna? She asked. He stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression suddenly excited. The streetlights flickered on. It looked as if he were lighting up because of her answer. Anna? Is that her name? You know her? She's a new girl, very pale, blonde, has her hair just brushed straight back with a barrette in front, wears dresses all the time. Yeah, that's her. Anna. What's her last name? I don't know, Lisa snapped, then regretted revealing how annoyed she was. Corwin, I think. Anna Corwin. She's in my third period physics class. Wow, he said, still not moving. The trees casting shadows across his face as they bent in the wind. You know her. What's she like? No, Corey, I don't know her. I told you. She's a new girl. I don't know her at all. She never says a word in class. Sits in the back row, as pale as a ghost. She's absent a lot. Why are you so hot to know her? What else do you know? Corey asked, ignoring her question. Come on. That's it, Lisa said impatiently. She started walking on ahead of him, taking long strides. He ran to catch up. I thought I made her up, he said. No, she's real, Lisa replied. She doesn't look real, but she's real. You in love with her or something? Oh, I know. David and you made a bet to see which one could get a date with her first. She shoved him again, nearly knocking him off the sidewalk. I'm right, aren't I? You two always pick on the new girls. Again, he didn't seem to hear her. Don't you know anything else about her? Whose homeroom is she in? Where does she live? Oh, yeah, I did hear that. She transferred here from Melrose. Her family moved into a house on Fear Street. Fear Street? Corey stopped short, suddenly chilled. Fear Street, a narrow street that wound past the town cemetery and through the thick woods on the south edge of town, had a special meaning for everyone in Shadyside. The street was cursed, people said. The blackened shell of a burned-out mansion, Simon Fear's old mansion, stood high on the first block of Fear Street, overlooking the cemetery, casting eerie shadows that stretched to the dark, tangled woods. Terrifying howls, half human, half animal, hideous cries of pain, were said to float out from the mansion late at night. People in Shadyside grew up hearing the stories about Fear Street, about people who wandered into the woods there and disappeared forever, about strange creatures that supposedly roamed the Fear Street woods, about mysterious fires that couldn't be put out, and bizarre accidents that couldn't be explained, about vengeful spirits that haunted the old houses and prowled through the streets, about unsolved murders and unexplained mysteries. When Corey and Lisa were kids, their friends liked to dare one another to go for a walk on Fear Street at night. It was a challenge few kids were willing to accept, and those who did never stayed on Fear Street for long. Now, even though Corey was older, the words Fear Street still brought a chill. I think Anna belongs on Fear Street, Lisa said, giving Corey her half-smile. She could haunt one of those old houses as good as any ghost. I think she's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen, he said, as if he felt he had to defend her against all attacks. So, do you have a bet with David or what? She asked. No, he snapped, lost in thought. They reached their houses, dark, shingled ranch houses, almost identical, set back far from the street behind tall hedges of evergreens, on wide, manicured lawns, as were most houses in the North Hills, the nicest section of town. About Saturday night, she tried again. Yeah, right. See you tomorrow, he said, and began jogging up the long paved drive to his house. Anna Corwin. The name repeated in his mind. What a nice, old-fashioned name. That's right, operator. The family's name is Corwin. It's a new number. On Fear Street? I'm looking for it, sir, the information operator said. There was a long silence. Why am I so nervous just calling information? Corey asked himself. He had thought about Anna all through dinner. Now, up in his room, he had decided to get her phone number. I know I'm going to be too nervous to call her, he thought. I just want to get the number, in case I want to call her someday. There was a long silence. He sat leaning over the desk in his room, pencil poised over the yellow pad he kept near the phone. Yes, here's the number. It's a new listing. The operator read him the number, and he scribbled it down. And what's the address on Fear Street, operator? We're not supposed to give that out, sir. Come on. I promise I won't tell anybody, Corey laughed. Surprisingly, the operator laughed too. I guess it's okay. It's my last night anyway. It's 444 Fear Street. Thanks a lot, operator. You're a nice person. You're nice too, she said, and quickly clicked off. Corey stood over his desk and stared at Anna's phone number on the yellow pad. Should he call it? If he called her, what would he say? Call her, Corey. Go ahead. Don't be such a chicken. She's only a girl after all. Sure, she's the most beautiful girl you've ever seen, but she's only a girl. He picked up the receiver. His hand was cold and clammy, even though it was quite hot in his room. He stared at the number on the yellow pad until it blurred before his eyes. No, I can't call her. What would I say? I just stammer around and sound like a jerk. She already thinks I'm a jerk after seeing me standing on my head in the lunchroom. He put down the phone receiver. No, I can't. I just can't. Sure. Why not? He picked up the receiver. This is stupid. I'm going to make an idiot of myself. He punched her phone number. Put the phone down, Corey. Don't be a jerk. It rang once. Twice. Maybe she won't even remember who I am. It rang again. Again. Nobody home, I guess. Whew. He let it ring 4 more times. He was just about to hang up when he heard a click at the other end, and a young man's voice answered. Yeah? Oh, hello. For some reason, he wasn't expecting anyone but Anna to answer. His mouth was suddenly so dry, he wondered if he could speak. Yeah? Is Anna there? What? Who was this guy? Why did he sound so annoyed? Maybe Corey had woken him up. I'm sorry, is this the Corwin house? Corey asked. Yeah, it is, the young man rasped in his ear. Could I speak to Anna, please? There is a very long silence. Sorry, this is the Corwins, but there's no Anna here. The phone clicked off.